Well, greetings out there. My name is Mike Preston. I'm here with Pete Johnson, the co-founder of Rock from the Heart. And today we're very excited to talk to our special guest, the legendary Bruce Kulick. For those who don't know, Bruce spent 12 very important years as lead guitarist with Kiss. In addition to that, he spent 23 years with Grand Funk Railroad. He's also played with other artists as diverse as Michael Bolton, Meatloaf, and Billy Squier. But he's here today to talk because recently he had open heart surgery to repair a congenital aortic valve defect. Bruce, welcome and thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. And, I've been talking a little bit about it, but you guys are this is the perfect forum to talk about heart surgery.
Well, that's the kind of, the aortic thing is a big umbrella, and we've all got diverse stories.
Yeah.
I survived a full dissection. Pete's got his valve story we'll talk about later. And Bruce, let's get right into yours, though. To explain this, it's congenital aortic valve defect that you had?
Yeah, I mean, one of the funniest things I heard during this whole episode of my life, which is obviously huge, but thankfully has turned out to be the right thing to do and a benefit for my life moving forward, for who I am, what I do, and for longevity with my wonderful wife, Lisa. And to do it proactively, most people don't deal with their heart proactively. Okay, we know that.
Right.
But I always believed in every year I got a physical, especially by the time I was like 40 or 50, just see my doctor. And it was my primary back in California about 12 years ago. And he's listening to my heart. He goes like, "You have a murmur." And I go like, "Okay, I don't know what it means."
Yeah.
And not every murmur means you need surgery, everybody
Right.
out there, okay? But it could also mean there is definitely something unusual with your heart and you should get it checked out. So then I'm at a cardiologist in LA. Nice guy, Dr. Kupavasa. Very, very German accent, the whole thing. Wonderful young guy. And he was like, "Okay, you have, they did whatever test it was. Back then, I didn't remember. Ultrasound, this or that. You have a bicuspid valve." And to be quite honest, back then, all right, it was a name, but I didn't really understand the mechanics of what that meant. But
Why
I
would
knew it was something. They said, we need to keep an eye on this because later in life, you're going to need to do something. Okay, that's all I knew. All right. And every year I'd go, I didn't feel that different from year to year, basically, except, you get a little older, right? So, and every year it was like not much of a change. Okay, see you in 6 months for this test or a year. And then finally, I did the tests in November of 25. And when I saw him, the cardiologist in December, he said, "Okay, now you're severe aortic stenosis from your bicuspid valve." Okay. And now I go, and I'm like, again, I didn't feel that different. So I was kind of like staring at the floor. And he's
Yeah.
explaining everything to my wife, Lisa, who came with me. And he says, now it's much more common not to wait. You're 72. You want to consider repairing this while your baseline is strong, meaning for the people listening that you're generally healthy. So you can
Yes.
handle instead of being in some bad way. So at that point, he said, "Well, we need to do a few more tests to see. Maybe we can do the TAVR. We'll see. Not sure." Now, I was always told about the TAVR, which is a less invasive repair.
Okay.
Although, as soon as I started to do the research in early January, I was realizing I'm going to wind up with open heart surgery. Okay. I mean, he never took that off the table, but those other tests were going to tell, okay, the CT scan, and then, of course, an angiogram. But he knew from the CT scan that I needed open heart surgery, that trying to put a valve in through a vein, less invasive, of course, it wouldn't be a great fit, and I wouldn't get great results. I knew one other guy, I'll keep him out of it, but he's a famous actor that I've met, and we've been in touch. He's had a lot of heart problems. And he told me he also had a bicuspid many years ago, but he's had other issues. Fortunately, he's well, but I know he's had a lot of experience. And he said, I've had some friends do the TAVR for the bicuspid, and it was not a good result, which is exactly why my cardiologist and then the surgeon I met did not want to go that way. Why would somebody else choose that? Well, if you think you only got 5 more years of your life, go for it, because it's a
Yeah.
hell of a lot less invasive, and
Right.
you're only in the hospital a few days. And open heart, we know, is like minimum 2 months and more likely 3 months until you're much more healed, et cetera, with a lot of rules and regulations, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I already knew by the time I went in for the angiogram, which, by the way, they said, "Oh, you have beautiful vessels," you know, just in case at that point they would give you a stent if you needed it.
Hmm.
And they certainly don't want to go into your heart to repair a valve if you're already blocked elsewhere that they can't see. Okay, hence the angiogram. And you're in twilight when you do that, so you kind of hear them. You don't really feel any pain or anything. But it was just so funny after 20 minutes, you know, the nurse just says, you know, you have beautiful vessels. You know, we don't need any stents. You're fine. You're going to go relax for a couple hours and then you're going home, you know. But of course, he was able to see that the calcification from the bad valve was severe, you know, meaning there, you know, that's from having 2 flaps instead of 3, which is a
Okay.
normal heart. And the 2 flaps make your heart, that valve rather, work like a fish and blop, 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 and it's going to leak. And you will get calcification no matter how healthy a diet you eat. A lot of people were really surprised. Why does Bruce need open heart surgery? You know, he looks like a healthy
He
guy. We
looks
know he's
healthy.
not a
Yeah.
drinker, smoker. And I had to be really clear that this was a birth defect, this was planned. And I can't even imagine why you know, all the people who don't know they're a ticking time bomb, sometimes they get a tip. Ooh, my brother, you know, I had this conversation with a cardio PT woman that was near me, a little older than me. I said, so what brought you here? Oh, I had stents. They found 90% blockage. You know, well, how'd you find out? I said, well, my older brother had a heart episode. You know, genetic is important, of course, you know.
Hmm.
And I
Right.
got checked out and they were like, you need to go to the hospital, you know, for the procedure. And a lot of people just, I'm not telling everybody you should go see a cardiologist, but you got to listen to your body. Make sure you get a physical. They'll hear a murmur. Your cholesterol and what you eat and how you behave, they're all very important because our bodies are not that much different than an engine, you know, in a car. And I have to admit that because I'm pro medical, pro doctors, and I have a couple of dear friends who are genius surgeons. I've met them from playing guitar, of course, you know, through the years. And I can always throw something at them, you know, as a second opinion. But really, right now, there's so much research medical online and through AI even that a good AI program is not going to tell you, oh yeah, you can ignore that. You know, but they're going to tell you what it is. And I will admit, I started using ChatGPT in January. Lisa's son recommended it because we were having it. We don't know what to do with this bed. We don't know what to do with this appliance. You know, you know, you may want to look it up there. And when I
Yeah.
started having discussions about what the doctor saw, shared the report, you know what I mean? It was crystal clear why I needed this. Because the doctor's going to say, you need to do this. You'll see the surgeon. You know what I mean? My surgeon was very kind. He was very patient, spent probably 50 minutes with Lisa and I talking about it. But
And
I
they
already
explain
knew
the
everything.
options to you too, it sounds like.
No, well, no, well, what do you mean by an option?
With the other procedure that you were talking about, the minimally invasive
Right, or
procedure.
a TAVR,
Yeah, yeah, Tavern.
trans and whatever that T stands
Hmm.
for, aortic valve replacement. Yeah. No,
Right,
he couldn't recommend it, so he didn't really give
right,
me a choice. Now, if I was stomping on, you know, with my feet saying that's what I want, then they would do the best they could. My cardiologist already looked into it. You know, the Mick Jagger repair, and God bless him, he's still going and he's healthy. He had a TAVR. Now, I don't know what kind of valve issue he had, you know, and
right.
everybody's built different and everybody's heart situation. I know a little bit from having emails with Pete. His situation wasn't a mirror image of mine. I can't believe how many procedures there are and all the things that go wrong with a heart,
Yeah.
between, the AFib things and then just regular, all the people that wrote me saying like, yeah, I'm having triple bypass. I always heard the term. I didn't even know what it meant. Okay.
Right.
You know,
Right.
now you're taking a vein out of someone's leg and repairing the heart with that. And I didn't really, well, why would I have to know everything? If it didn't happen to a family member, I know my brother had something that wasn't what I had, but one cardiologist really wrapped this up very well. He wasn't that much fun when he came in to visit me at the hospital. Every day you had a cardiologist come in, and he goes, "Yep, all right. Well, it's he did the job, but let's face it, your parents didn't build you well." I was like,
Wow.
I mean,
That's open for debate.
yeah,
Oh,
but
man.
I defend that. He caught me off guard, and I'm probably still high on morphine sitting there.
Right.
I got a little kick out of it. But what I like to say now when I do interviews, my parents blessed me with a great talent that I so fortunate to have. Okay, music, the ability to play, hear it, create, and perform, and have a professional career from it. That is genetic too. Even though, of
Yeah.
course, I worked hard at it and I'm professional with the approach. Okay, because it doesn't matter. There's a lot of talented people and stuck in a bedroom and they're never gonna be heard because they don't know how to do it, how to work with people or understand the big picture.
Right.
But honestly, yeah, I get it. It wasn't their intention. Birth defects are very common. I don't know, where it comes from 3 generations above or whatever, and Pete understands too. It's a genetic, birth defect. But I think people need to understand that too, that that's, another thing that I was a little surprised that I do know other people that had the same birth defect, but they knew about it way younger and they had it repaired way younger than me. But it
Yeah.
wasn't suggested to me. I would have been like 60 when I found out. But no one said we should get ahead of this and deal with it now. But
Right.
maybe, I still am blown away completely with the technology. I know that it keeps getting better. And whatever they did in that operating room in April was a miracle. Okay.
Hmm.
And for me to come out of it doing as well as I'm doing now, okay, is just a testament to medical science.
Yeah.
So I'm
You
blessed
talk.
that I followed it.
Yeah, you mentioned being pro doctor. I became pro doctor. I wasn't anti doctor, but I didn't care. I was like, yeah, I didn't have any reason to know about these things. I became very much pro doctor after they saved my life and put me back together again from this whole thing.
Yeah,
I was, they started explaining all the things they had done to me. I was just like, you did all that for little old me. I'm very
yeah,
much pro doctor. And today, when they tell me to do something, I do it. So, but
yeah,
I don't know that it would have had that impact before had my life not been threatened like it was.
yeah. No, and I know a lot of people who are very flippant about they may have gone through their life and they're in their 60s already and they've never even had a
Right.
checkup or
Yeah,
blood
I'm
work.
always healthy. Yeah.
That's a little weird, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to me, because
Yeah.
even if you think you feel okay, and believe me, no matter how well you take care of yourself, between the environment and the stress of our world and humanity, shall I say, and how
Yeah.
easy it is to get
Yeah.
you can have a shit fit at Starbucks. You don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but you don't know, really what's going on inside. You know what I mean? And I treat my cars as good as I treat my body, and I joke I have a doctor for every body part, and I kind of do, but I certainly have always had a good primary who's like the quarterback. Okay, so for the people who are watching who have never seen a doctor just for a checkup, okay, and especially if you're over even 40, I think that's a really bad thing that you don't know what's going on. And, just a simple visit like that could save your life. Now, I know some people hate doctors, don't believe in the medical community. That's your choice. I'm not going to not like you. You're still my friend. You're still
Right.
my
Yeah.
fan. Okay.
Yeah.
But I just think that, and not every doctor is perfect either. And that's why you ask questions. They can miss
You got
something.
to
Doesn't
advocate for
feel
yourself.
right. Something's wrong. You know what I mean? And then you keep searching. I know when my brother had an abscess in his colon, the stomach, which he wound up, having, real surgery for. The doctor didn't find it right away. He didn't. And that was the good doctor. But he kept going. And then when they did some blood work, once again, blood work, and saw that my brother was anemic, no reason for him to be anemic. You see what I'm saying? Because I knew he ate well and he wasn't, after my surgery, obviously I had anemia, because you lose so much blood. So
Right.
that's when, code red, and then they do the right test and they go like, you need surgery and it's got to be this week. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta, I know a lot of people will ignore. I had a friend back in New York and then in LA in the industry, wonderful guy too. I just always remember he had this weird kind of cough thing always, it's like, all right, that's his personality. And then I can't connect it to the heart attack he had and died, but he died way too young. So what was that? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Or someone
Yeah.
else who ignores something like that. And then they find out they have cancer, but it's already stage 4 and they're
Yeah.
gone in 6 months.
Get
So
ahead
I
of
don't
it.
know why people don't take it more serious, even though clearly it's easy to have some prejudice to the medical community, because of all the adverts you see on TV and and how expensive things are, and then, well, I don't have health insurance. Well, God forbid something does happen. If you get ahead of it, you won't need that big operation that they want,
Right.
for you to put you in debt. Okay, because
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
know if you've been in a hospital, if you don't have insurance, oh my God, the
Yeah.
prices.
Look
But
out.
they
Yeah.
they they will treat you, I mean,
Yeah.
fortunately, I have insurance, but I see these bills, so they're like the list price,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Right.
wow. But that might frighten people too. Or even if
Yeah.
you just get that kind of insurance that's just catastrophic, meaning you're in the
Get
hospital.
something and get in there.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. But
Pete,
more important, go to the doctor and see what's going on.
yeah. And Pete, yours was a valve issue too. Was yours anything similar to Bruce's? Was your experience anything like that?
Very similar, really. I went in for a regular physical. In my case, I started going in too when I was about 40, started going in every year, getting older. And I was told that I had a heart murmur too. And he asked me, have you ever been told that before? I said, yeah, since I've been about 12 years old. Yeah. And anyway, yeah, that led to a couple of tests because he said we should investigate why are you murmuring? And sure enough, bicuspid heart valve and the bicuspid valve closing up had caused an aneurysm in my aorta right above the aortic valve. So I didn't
Oh,
have even TAVR version to fix it, through the arteries. That wasn't on the table for me because they had to cut my aorta, that aneurysm out, and put a graft that kind of looks like a sweat sock from the 70s. Have that sewn in into my aorta.
nice.
Uh, yeah, but so they're all similar, but they're all different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the healing process and just the joy of knowing, hey, I can go out and play music again after I heal up a little bit and put some smiles on other people's faces, which puts a smile on my face.
True.
And you know, I think Bruce probably knows what I'm talking about. How you feel pretty lousy that first month, and then all of a sudden you just start feeling nice again.
Yes.
And you too, Mike. You probably experienced that too. Just one day you're kind of happy again.
Well, yeah. In my case, it was a little longer lag time because I did go through the complete dissection and was in the hospital for a month
Right.
and had to learn to walk again and all that stuff all over again. So getting cheerful took a little while, but it's there. But all along the way, extremely grateful for what these people did for me. And I was going to ask Bruce about your hospital experience with. I always need to do a shout out to the nurses, aides, doctors, and people that cheered me up and were my family when I was in the hospital. Did you have a good experience with your hospital stay?
Yes, I mean, I'm really glad I had the angiogram first, so I got a kind of a lay of the land, at a
Mhm.
local hospital. And in the 8 years I lived here, I hadn't had to have outside of like a colonoscopy or something like that. I didn't know much about the hospitals here, and I've never in my life before this heart surgery stayed overnight in a hospital. Okay, which is
Right.
something to brag about, I guess,
Yeah.
And but I was already comfortable from that angiogram, and I heard great things from some friends too that particularly like this hospital called Siena St. Rose in Henderson, and the team with Dr. Deshir, who I should give a little shout out for because he's the premier heart guy in my area. Um, they were amazing, and when I was in ICU, certainly the cream of the crop are always in ICU. I felt everybody was great at the hospital, but suddenly when you go to the other floor, when they deem you better enough, now it's like 4 patients per nurse, where before it's 2. So I had a fantastic time the first few nights. I mean, I'm high. Unfortunately, I didn't feel high, but you're on morphine, okay?
Right.
And I'm a very that actually just takes away all the fears and worries, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, and I know there's some that hallucinate and they can be angry and they can be really weird. So I'm bonding with my night nurse and we're just chatting it up, and I'm if he recorded everything I said, he'd have a really good kiss book, I think. You know what I mean? Because I remember just chatting about, and again, I didn't, I still was in my right mind, so it was not like I would say some dark secret. I really don't have many dark secrets at all, but it was nice to bond with him and just chat. And there were 2 different ones, and they were just amazing. Brandon, and I'm not sure I remember the other guy. The girl, there was one woman who was, I gotta say, was amazing. My wife would remember her name better than me, but she was the one that took the tubes out of my chest. Okay.
Okay.
That's a big deal. I was already, I knew this from my AI program. Like when you wake up, first of all, you're going to want to, take the breathing tube out of your mouth. And apparently I was so mellow about it all. I woke up, they were able to get it out, and I wasn't fighting anybody and I wasn't acting weird. And they do a little test just to see, can you suck on an ice cube or whatever they did? I don't know. And then they called Lisa and he said, he's awake. He's doing great. Come on down. You know what I mean? And that was a big relief for her because the doctor saw her. Unfortunately, one of her best friend was with her, and said, look, I had to clean out the heart. There was a lot of calcification. So Pete, in my case, nothing happened to my aorta, even though they knew that the heart could continue enlarging, which is bad from that valve not functioning right. But the calcification was a little more severe than any CT scan or anything showed. So he had to like triple wash my heart or something. And he warned Lisa, if there's a speck of that calcium in there, I could have a stroke. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, even though
Wow.
they know what they would do if it happened, but thank God it didn't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I know my wife went home a wreck. And they said, you got to go home now and wait for us to call you. And I'm going, when did this turn into I could die while I'm, recovering,
Right.
meaning right
Yeah.
post surgery. But understanding a little more, and again, every heart operation is slightly different. Everybody's condition is another variation of what can go wrong when it's being done. And I will let you know, here's where it got a little funny, but unfortunately it happened up in the regular floor, not in ICU. I did go into AFib 4 days after. Very common, 50% of the time. And that sucks. I felt okay, but all of a sudden the machine went, you know what I mean, way up. 158 or something over, and everyone's running in the room. And I'm
Right.
like, eh. I'm sitting there. I could kind of feel it
Yeah.
going, hello, hello, but
Yeah.
nothing hurt. And then now they're
Yeah.
giving me some of that medicine for it, which is kind of nasty. And then apparently that in what do they call it when they give you IV? There might be another name, but that IV thing for it actually got aggravated my vein. They call it phlebitis. Okay,
Oh,
which is your vein gets gets swollen, it gets red. So they had to switch it and put it in the other arm. And then when I went home, my arm was a little swollen, which I was pretty freaked out about. And I had to be on antibiotics. So anything can happen, even though it healed. I followed every an important thing. The nurses are great because they'll go over repeatedly what you need to do. They
Right.
won't send
Right.
you home unless you have someone
Yeah,
like my
understand.
Lisa. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'll go to rehab because you
Right.
can't go home because you can't take care of yourself.
Right.
You could
Yeah.
barely, you can't even wipe your ass. Okay, I mean, you know what I mean.
Right.
It's
Oh
like
Right.
yeah.
you're a baby for a few weeks minimum. Okay, so at that point, of course, Lisa and I, again, with tremendous amount of research, I had the recliner, I had the toilet seat riser, I had the seat for my shower. I was going to use the downstairs shower, which we never use. You know, occasionally you have to use in the pool, um, because I could go from my recliner to there in 6 feet. You know what I mean? I'm in the bathroom.
Right.
You know, so they were like really impressed. I know sometimes they send people home with not enough information. My hospital, it was like a book of everything to
Good.
do, you know. So the
And
nurses were amazing. It was painless when they took those tubes out. She was very, all right, breathe out, you know, and then I'm like, I can't, there's a tube in my chest, two of them, you know, and they were hooked up to these tanks and the tanks filled up with you know, fluid and blood and then, of course, they have those wires that they have to keep an eye on the heart that are connected. Then there's something on your neck. It's remarkable. Okay, I could also say it's like, oh my God, and that's what it is. I mean, it's overwhelming. I'm glad I knew what I would see when I woke up, but at that point, you're on that morphine, and if it's doing what it should do, you don't care. You just want to. You're happy to be alive. You know you went through. You know it before it even happened that this is a major surgery. Lisa and I used to joke last thing about what a major surgery is. Yeah, you know, by the way, I'll be out of the loop in April and May, and we'll see how much longer I'm going in for open heart surgery. Ooh, that's always the reaction. Ooh,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I mean, yeah, I get it. It is,
It's a big
ooh,
deal.
you know. I told my heart surgeon that. He was laughing. He goes, "Look, I do these all the time. Okay, I've done thousands. You know, just I know it's there's a lot going on." And then one thing I didn't like. Again, he knows I played guitar. I made sure he understood that I was the Kiss guitar player, and there'd be a lot of disappointed fans if anything happened to me. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
besides me and my wife and you know my family, but um, he said, "All right, you know, you're gonna have to be careful. I don't want you playing guitar for 3 months." He didn't understand that I don't perform that much. I do, but so he's thinking a weight bearing instrument of I don't know Les Paul's 10 pounds. You know
Yeah.
that can't happen for a while. Okay, my primary, thank God, after like 3 or 4 weeks, she goes like, music. I need you to do your music. I know you need to do your music. I go, he told me not to play for 3 months. No, no, no. You have Lisa hand you the guitar and put it on your lap and play the guitar. You have a mini keyboard, play the keyboard, you know, and God bless her for saying that because as soon as Lisa was, you know, in other words, I don't have to lift an 8 pound. All my guitars are on the lighter side, and that's because I broke a collarbone back in the 80s. So I knew I don't want any heavy instruments.
Right.
You know, she'd hand me that guitar. I have acoustics that are 6 pounds, you know, big deal. But as soon as I started playing, I was just like, oh, it
It
was
helped.
the biggest joy in the world. And I started to get very creative. And I've done more serious songwriting and attention to what I always wanted to be my next solo record during recovery than in the 2 years. Okay, I'm not in Grand Funk anymore. I retired from that because I didn't want to travel every weekend. And I'm going to write a book and I'm going to do a solo record. And then, you know, where are they? All right. At times I started to do demos and then I stopped. And now it's full speed ahead. And I'm thanking this recovery. And like I think one of you mentioned earlier, life looks a little different when you go through something like this. Okay.
Yeah.
You bet.
So there's always good in the ooh, you
Yeah.
know, the bad, shall I say. And in this
Yeah.
case, not only, and in some ways, you know, I get this sense that I will be better than before, and I didn't realize how hard my heart at sometimes would work because it couldn't,
It had to.
circulate the blood.
Yeah.
I'm sharper. I have more clarity. Now there aren't, I'm in my 11th week now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 and a half weeks. So I'm almost Tuesday. I'll be in my 12th week, which is a real big graduation. But I would say even by I know earlier you guys were talking about when you started to feel okay. Yeah, the first month was hard. I didn't sleep well. I had to sleep on my back. You can't. I was using the recliner and all the
Yeah.
rules you got to learn about being careful about pushing off and all the. But by certainly by the 6th week, I didn't have trouble playing guitar. I had to take it slow just to get some calluses. But you're sitting and
Yeah.
playing. So you're not doing anything this way. And as long as you're doing, as they call the T-Rex arms, it's okay. So playing guitar, I don't understand how the drummers that have open heart, that's such a full body thing, and you're doing all that. I'm not clear how. I've known a few drummers that were already back on stage in 7, 8 weeks, and I was like surprised. Tell me
What
about
I
that.
did is before my surgery, I called my wife, Amy, into my practice area and I said, take a video of me drumming.
Right,
So after we're done, I mean, people who don't drum think that drummers play like Animal on
right.
the Muppets. And I thought, well,
Yeah,
that can't be good for any open heart trying to heal. So I wanted
right.
to be able to show the cardiologist what it actually looks like when I play the drums. And
Got it.
I'm a medium to medium heavy hitter
Mhm.
is about where I land.
And what
And
do you say?
he said, you know what? At 6 weeks, you can do some light drumming.
Right,
And at 8 weeks, you can try drumming like you normally drum.
right.
So at 8 weeks, I played a 42-minute gig. It was a
Good.
opening slot for somebody or another.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Amy had to lug my gear for me because I was
Of
still
course.
under restrictions.
Yeah,
So that was
So
of
good.
you
course.
say.
What's that, Mike?
So you say you just had her do that for you, Pete.
Yeah, I was making that part up. No,
Well, I got
get
a
her.
younger wife who's strong, fortunately, and she's, not only did she care for me in an incredible way, and the first thing that I did musically was I had this riff that I loved that was very melodic and kind of mysterious sounding, and I started to develop it on my home, studio, and then I knew I needed another part, and I wrote the other part. And I swear this is in that first week of me playing again after not playing for practically a month. And all of a sudden that came to me, and then I kept hearing these words without her, okay, and what the melody was, and then I realized, oh, this is going to be my recovery, my surgery recovery with the chorus that will say that I couldn't have done it without her, okay.
Excellent.
And wow, what a emotional thing for me to create. And everyone I played it for, they were just like, and I sang it. I got to re-sing my demo, but they were just like, "Whoa, that's really intense, Bruce," and I love it. You know what I mean? I mean, when you're authentic with your music, it really resonates big. And I was a little. Some of the lyrics are very clear that my chest is open. Okay, you know what I mean? And that was a great start of being musical. But again, all I'm doing is these kind of things, playing light bass. I didn't have to send a video to someone, and say like, "Can I do this?" So, um, and I don't have to play live guitar until end of September, and I'm sure I could wear one of my 7.5 pound guitars. It's not going to hurt me. And then certainly by
Yeah.
November, the bigger gigs, um, I should be in great shape. I'm not worried about it. The cardiac PT is going really well, where in some ways I'm building myself a little better than I had before the surgery. Right.
Yeah, I felt the same way after cardiac rehab.
Right.
That was
Right.
a fantastic thing.
Yep.
Well,
So really,
well, now,
I get a lot of people telling me they're going to have open heart surgery, or, and I just tell them, follow all the directions and you'll be fine. Okay.
yeah.
Because I do think that the people that get in trouble, I'm not doing that. you know, and they do
Yeah.
something, some hero move or something, and it's like, ow, you know, and then something doesn't feel right or whatever. Now I listen to my body a lot, too much that at times, is my valve okay? I don't feel right. Yeah, well, how about when you get dehydrated, right? And I have a tendency for that. And then I live in the desert here in Nevada. And then I'm so busy with something, I forget I didn't drink for 3 hours. And then I feel like, what's wrong with me? Why is my blood pressure dropping? And then I drink a hydrator, and there he is sipping some water. You know, and then all of a sudden you go like,
Power of
oh,
suggestion.
oh, wait a minute. I feel a little better now. You know what I mean? And then you're on diuretics because, you know, my feet were swollen, not very much, but I hated that. But you got to follow the rules, you know, and you got to listen to the, and if does, you got to ask questions if
Yeah.
things don't feel right. And then when you're anemic, you got to take iron pills. And then, you know, the cardiologist is going to try different blood pressure pills depending on what's being, you know, worked on, because they're trying to protect that valve, because we know how expensive it is, you know, and how much effort went into it, and the oh my god, you know, factor of healing from something like that. Let me ask you something, Pete. When you first came home, how long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for 9 days.
Okay, so you beat me by a few days, and when you came home, you were like a baby, like me, hopeless,
Oh
helpless,
yeah.
rather. Um, Wasn't it hard to sleep too? It was hard for me to sleep. I napped great. I couldn't sleep at
Yes.
night. I'd be like crazy. And then by the time I graduated enough, okay, I could try my bed. And it was one of those adjustable flex fit things that I could adjust it. And you learned how to climb in and out of bed as a technique. You know, you don't want to
Oh
hurt
yeah.
your sternum. But I don't sleep well on my back. So
No.
I
It
I
was
I, I
really
have
hard
another
to
song
sleep.
idea
Yeah.
that's, what was that?
I said it was very hard for me personally to sleep, an hour at a time, hour and a half at a time
Yeah,
in the recliner,
right.
yeah, it
Oh,
was.
I have the most awesome recliner, and but my cardiologist said, "Oh yeah, the insomnia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's real common, real common. You know, nobody said like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and your body just wants sleep. You know, it needs to repair. So that's why those hour or 2 hour naps, whatever you can do, are remarkable. I'd have a meal. That was it. Out.
Right.
You know,
Right.
every
Yeah.
meal I'd be like out. But I loved it because then I felt like, okay. I used to fall asleep checking emails. I'm checking what does Pete want now? You know, and then Lisa comes over, takes the phone, honey, you need to take a nap now. You know, yeah. And now it's remarkable with time passing and everything that I could have a really hectic day and I didn't nap. And there are times if something is, you know, I get a lot of crazy, you know, and you take my naps are shorter. You remember they were longer in the beginning, you know. Easily I could fall asleep for an hour in the recliner. And now it's like sometimes I wake up after 20 minutes. I'm refreshed. It's a
Yeah.
miracle.
Awesome.
But
Absolutely.
again, when that heart has all the valves working, right? There's no calcified areas, right? The blood's moving through there. In theory, yeah, the engine just got an oil change and all the spark plugs are replaced,
Yeah.
like my T-shirt, you know.
Working like it
So,
should. Well,
exactly.
Bruce, you mentioned your wife Lisa, and that's another recurring theme that I like to hammer home. That this is not a solo project, the recovery
No,
thing, and friends and family and your support group around you are so important. And it's an entirely different journey for them because you're going through it. You're the guy, but they're experiencing so much anxiety on your
yes,
behalf that it's
yes,
in some ways it's almost tougher on them and a more grueling experience. Because you talk about morphine, I was whacked out on Dilaudid. I wasn't suffering. I was just
right,
laying in the bed,
right.
letting them fix me. But everybody else was worrying, is he going to make it? And that, so
Yeah.
if you want to talk a little bit about that and Lisa's journey, it's very crucial.
I mean, clearly, obviously that first week, that she knew the hospital would call and she'd spend as much time as she could. I didn't need her overnight. You know, I knew the nurses, they would tell her, you got to go home and eat. And she would be there if that was necessary. I know her and I would do the same for her. But when I came home and now the responsibility is on her, um, we have a sofa couch in the living room where the recliner is. So she was literally right next to me, but she never really could sleep. One ear was always open.
Right.
So she never really slept well. And I remember it caught up with her after 3 or 4 days when I first came back. And I remember she was just couldn't even think straight. She woke up, and it was weird too, because I'm like, I think I'm a little confused about some of the meds because they send you home with a lot of meds. And because she was really in a bad way from lack of sleep, too much anxiety, and the stress of all this, like you were saying, it's real hard for them. I just suddenly got crystal clear. I got this. And I'm like, give me all the pills. You know what I mean? And now I'm sitting there typing it out. I don't know how I did that because I really was not in great shape. I mean, it exhausted me later, but I knew I need to step up because I can't rely on her about those pills at that moment when she is sleep deprived, stressed, overwhelmed. And we make a good team that way. When she's down, I'll be supportive and up. If I'm down, she is. Okay. So, but that other person does bear a weight. And but the gift of humanity and love and a connection with human beings, there are people who volunteer and do things for total strangers that are wonderful. We know that. But you do
Mhm.
need a family member or a friend or somebody to step up. And Lisa and I used to say, what happens when they don't have somebody? Because we have some good friends who are wonderful. They live alone. They're not married. I'm not sure if they have a girlfriend. You want to test a new girlfriend, go have open heart surgery and say, by the way, I have no family. You got to take care of me. You know what I mean?
After
And
after
they
they
move to
help
another
you,
state.
after they
You know what
help
I
you
mean?
in the shower, then if they stay, then they're
Yeah, yeah,
yours.
yeah. There
Yeah.
you go. Oh, let me tell you, that was one of my wife's pleasure. I get to shower him. This is what I
Oh,
tell you. Even though
yeah.
that was real frightening for me in the beginning, not her. I mean, I'm comfortable with her, but what if the water's too hot? What if it's too cold? What if I get a
Right.
draft? What if
Yeah.
I don't turn around well and I lose my footing? You know what I mean? Because you got to be really careful, and you're not
That was my worry.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, even when the first few times I went on my desktop, my computer that I use, everything looked like, huh? My eyes weren't really working great. It's big to be put under that kind of surgery, but very survivable, and ultimately for the greater good of your health.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you both talked about kind of the recovery mindset of seeing things in a different way after going through this experience. I call it like the bonus round of life that I'm in currently. I've gotten a reprieve and another chance. And one of the stories that I like to share with people is seeing things differently. My first Rock from the Heart experience was in 2022 when I went to Minneapolis to see Grand Funk Railroad. And of course, you guys had Max Carl in the band at the time from
Mhm.
38 Special. And when you guys went into A Heart Needs a Second Chance, I'm surrounded
Yeah.
by all these survivors, and I'm thinking, boy, that's a little on the nose,
Wow,
but
that's
it was
interesting. Even though I
very
had
Yeah.
some
moving.
sort of a
It
love
was very
song kind of
moving.
thing, but
Yeah,
I just
it
put
was
that
like,
together. And I do
oh
remember the
yeah,
gig. Pete and I talked about it, but to be honest, when you're gigging for decades, and you're traveling every weekend. Oh, we get to go to the city of Minneapolis. This would be nice.
yeah,
Well, this is a nice theater, and as much as you might be aware that, okay, this is an event for, a heart foundation type of thing. I didn't take away something big about that, but as soon as you filled me in with that email, Pete, it all came back to me, a little bit about being backstage and doing a good gig for you guys, and you guys being happy. I don't know if you remembered me, that I was the Kiss guitar player, and you
Oh
chatted with
yeah.
me. I can't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whenever that happened with Grand Funk, I kind of kept it low key, because it was like, it's not Grand Funk, and those guys were like, whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Oh, here we go,
Right.
another Kiss fan bothering Bruce. You know what I
right.
mean? Even though for me it was
Yeah.
wonderful, because I always enjoy the recognition or the connection with my Kiss fans. But I hope I was fine. I'm sure I was.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We,
Yeah.
we we had a short conversation a couple times.
Right.
The strangest thing about that gig in my memory is at that time, Minneapolis said any concert, everybody's got to wear a mask.
Oh,
So
wow.
you
It was
guys,
still,
I
yeah,
mean, we
yeah, yeah.
we came out as the
Yeah.
opening act first,
Right.
and Jesus, do these people like us? I can't tell if anyone's smiling
Yeah.
or
So
if
they
they're
were masked then, huh?
grimacing.
Wow.
So it was really a weird
Yeah.
audience to play for because they were
Sure.
masked. Yeah. And they
Well,
weren't
I mean,
happy about that either. But
yeah,
you know,
that
it
was
is what
like
it
that
is.
in between time, and we're just happy to be on stage playing. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So I didn't remember that, but either way, well, we got past all that with the pandemic.
absolutely.
Hallelujah.
I can't even
Hallelujah.
imagine what they were doing with open heart surgeries during the pandemic. Can you imagine? It's
Well, I
hard
had
enough for
mine
hospitals.
during the
Yeah,
pandemic, and I was in
Mhm.
the hospital for a month and only saw people with masks. I wasn't allowed
Yeah,
visitors or anything. So yeah, it was challenging, but
sure.
again, you adapt and survive,
You
So
got through it though. Exactly.
yeah. So now you referenced a book. Are you working on your autobiography?
Um, I have a lot of like subjects, you know what I mean, and then things pop in my head, and I make sure I write it down. And I be completely transparent. The music's more important right now because there
Yeah.
was something about the music that
Yeah.
I know healed me. Okay, helped me heal rather. Okay, it accelerated my cellular structure to be happy. Okay, because when you do, when a musician or creative person can get something accomplished that they're proud of and they like, and it makes them feel better. To hear that, then those are all like great healing things. Um, and then I know once I finish with that, I have a new chapter now, don't I, for the book?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was even
And-
fooling around. Well, could I call it Bruce Kulick, Straight from the Heart? You know what I mean? Or Heart of Chrome? I mean, even though I didn't have a metal valve. But
yeah.
I just know that my story is still being written,
Yeah.
and the book's in there. I've had good people approach me. All I'd have to do is do some interviews with them, and they would put it together. But I really want to write it. You know what I mean? I enjoy writing. It's a challenge. My wife's a great writer. She published a book earlier this year. It's a
oh,
time
cool.
travel murder mystery called
Really?
Timepiece. Yeah, I'm so
All
proud of her.
right.
And
What
I
is the title?
recorded her audio book, so you can find that on Amazon.
What
Timepiece.
is the title?
Timepiece. One word.
Timepiece. Okay.
Yeah, Timepiece. Yeah. And
Nice.
the audio book is amazing because she's got a beautiful speaking and singing voice. Okay. But
Great.
we challenge each other whenever I do some interviews. When they need to put it in a online thing, I'll say, send me the 10 questions because I like to control instead of a lot of and
Yeah.
I could
Right.
just say it and then correct it and then tighten it up. And then maybe when I review it again, I see, oh, and I forgot that Paul said this, you know what I mean, or something like that, and I put that in, or I'll run it by Lisa, and she goes like, "There's got to be a better word than best in that sentence." I go, "Okay, let's find it." Um, so we enjoy, and I have her as a editor too, and I have her. She's very much a part of my creative process. And
Great.
I obviously, like to ask her a million questions. How are you doing that? Do you want to do it that way? You know what I mean? Even though I never tell her what to do, I don't like to because I know she has a direction and she's very instinctual with it. And creative people need to be. But I know that we're better as a team than individually. You know.
That's
Great.
great. That's great. Well, and I'd like to hear more from Lisa. I wish there was a forum like this for maybe Amy and Lisa and some family members to get together and talk about the recovery process for them
Well,
and what to
there you go,
expect.
Pete. You could set that up. She'd love to talk about it.
Yeah.
I tell you, I mean, I love it when I see people. Once we started getting out there by the middle of July, everybody was like, "Whoa, Bruce looks a little thinner, but he looks good." You know what I mean? And I'm like, they're like, "How do you feel?" I feel great, and I just point to my wife and I go, she, just did everything to help me recover properly. But I will tell everyone that the patient needs that desire too. Someone can't make you,
Right.
do all the right
Yeah.
things and make sure. And I do need everyone to know that I'm a very focused and I like to go from like point A to point B, and understand the best ways to do it. And there's always going to be obstacles, and then you got to shift and figure that out, and then you get past that hurdle in life in anything you do. But for me, the recovery was my new job in life. You get it?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about where am I going to get booked next, or
Yeah.
what venue am I going to do, or what session can I do for somebody, or what am I going to work on, career wise. Okay. My job was my recovery. And that meant communicating with your doctor, following the directions. If you don't understand it, you learn it, you share how you're doing. You got a question, there's ways to figure out, why did my, BP jump up to like 120 in 1 second when I got on the treadmill, and maybe you were dehydrated and you shouldn't have been on the treadmill. You know what I mean? You get off of it. But this is the point I'm making, is that um, you really do have to be in touch with it and then make that commitment. And then you will improve, and you will be very happy with the result, as long as you can have that discipline is the word. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a full-time gig too. Well, I'm
mean,
very happy.
people, when you say, yeah, 2 months, oh, right,
Yeah.
there's probably longer recovery. I mean, we know cancer people deal with all these treatments for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then sometimes a surgery. God bless anyone who has to deal with this. You know what I mean? And hopefully they get the right care, and that they have the strength to follow through to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm very happy to see you on your feet and doing it, Bruce. So you mean a lot to a lot of people, and we've enjoyed your journey all along the way, and look forward to more from you. Pete, any additional stuff?
Just thank you, Bruce, for being with us. I mean, this has been a real neat interview, and just learning more about you and your wife's journey, because it really,
Sure.
you need that support. At least I know I did.
So I'd love you to explain, Pete, like, because the foundation is trying to help people who have had the surgery and who are needing this open heart surgery. Is that correct?
Well, Rock from the Heart is just really about trying to get good information into people's hands. Because when
Got
I
it.
had my heart surgery, there wasn't a lot of good information. I
Right.
mean, you'd Google and you'd get
Yep.
all kinds of different answers from people. So we thought,
Sure.
well, let's just, it kind of formed organically, and it just turned into a worldwide thing now.
Great.
We were just invited over to, oh God, now that I have to think of the name, I can't
Another
remember
country?
it.
Or,
Amsterdam.
oh, yeah, yeah. I remember you
My
mentioned
wife
something about
just
that.
got back
Sure.
from Amsterdam. She went over and we got Rock from the Heart on a world stage over there. She told a group of heart people all about what we did, and
That's
so
cool.
that was, yeah, really
Well,
interesting.
I'm gonna spread the word too.
Thank you.
Obviously, when I do one of my music podcast type things or interviews, I'm talking about everything. But obviously, people have asked about the how did my surgery go? But I think some of the messages, like what you're saying, having the right information,
Yeah,
could really save a life. Clearly, okay, or make them understand better what needs to be done, what can happen, and I think that empowers people. So I want to be supportive, and I have some things coming up that I'll share with you later, Pete. There'll be
great.
more after the fact, okay? But
Yeah,
I'd like to. I think I can help even some of my Kiss fans, because um, everyone, almost everyone, probably has a friend or a relative that has had some heart thing happen, to a
yeah,
very big event, to a scare. Okay. But I just think that people do need to understand it better. So that's something that I'm excited to kind of share with people, so that maybe
great.
they can learn, and it would save a life. And ultimately, that's all.
Wonderful.
Yep. All right.
I
It's
know.
almost an hour, so I'm going to go do my music.
Yeah,
Do
we look
it.
forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah. And
Bruce.
hopefully that could be if not by the end of this year, certainly early next year. I have a
Yeah.
goal. I have a vision. If I can get through that heart surgery, I could put out some new music. Okay. It's an easy equation.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you,
Thank you so
Bruce.
much.
Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All
It was nice
righty.
meeting you guys. And of
Yeah, you
course,
too.
and I'm having my website rebuilt right now, which is brucekulick.com. So it just has like older information on it, but it's still active with contact and stuff like that. The new site's going to be a lot better, and it should be up in the month of July. We're still in July, right? Okay. And I look forward to obviously communicating with everyone. I just couldn't believe the outpouring. And I want to thank all my fans for how much love and attention and support they gave me when they found out about it. And then so many of them, guys, had surgeries like what we're discussing. Okay. And it was mind blowing. And sometimes I'd hear an incredible positive result. Sometimes I'd hear a middle of the road, kind of thing. And sometimes, but he died. Okay. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
look,
it
when you're talking about
happens.
major surgery, it's all those permutations, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I didn't mind, receiving the messages, but it made me realize how unique it is for everybody,
Yeah,
depending
absolutely.
on the what they need to repair, what choices are made, how the patient reacts, how, it's just too many. It isn't a one simple, equation, but certainly finding out what's going on with your body, like we discussed earlier, that's the goal. Okay. To
It
to
is.
prevent something before there's a stroke, before there's a heart attack, and you're rushed to the hospital, and then they realize we have to, you know, do this major surgery right now. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I think is a great message. The education of all this, to help minimize that and to help prevent something tragic happening. That's all. So thank you so much for your platform, and I look forward to sharing the interview when it's ready. Okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Thanks,
We'll
Bruce.
be in touch. All right.
Absolutely. Say hi to the
See you
wives,
later.
and thanks again for your time. No
Yeah,
problem.
thank
Take care.
you.
All right. All right.
See
Bye bye
ya.
now.